Hi guys, my name is Katama and welcome to my channel. I'm so excited and grateful that you joined me here today. On this channel, we discuss everything emotional healing. Just a caveat, I am not a professional counselor, but I have spent almost half my life, or more than half my life, in various stages of this emotional healing journey. And I never believed that I could have the life I wanted because I was so broken inside and I was just in need of love and compassion. It was only after a really long time of journeying and seeking out different ways of healing that I've finally come into a place where I have peace in my life. And so I want to talk about this and share it with other people, that you too can have peace in your life and you too can have the kind of relationship with yourself that very few of us talk about. We spend so much time alone, and in those moments that we are alone, some of us escape from spending time alone, but I love myself. I can say that I enjoy myself. I find myself amusing. I'm not trying to escape when I'm spending time alone because I found peace in my mind. And yes, there are days where I'm a little bit out of whack, but then I have methods and means to speak to myself and to reconnect with myself. And this is what this channel is all about. It's just reconnecting with yourself on a deeper level and coming to a place in your life where you can be happy with who you are, where you are at in your life. It's all about this internal journey that we generally ignore. It's time to stop ignoring. It's blatant these days. Like, we can see that people in society are wounded. People in society are operating out of broken places. We have no compassion for each other. We cannot even listen to what each other is saying, and it's not because somebody else is the problem. It's because we often feel so attacked by people when somebody isn't even attacking us. And so I think that's part of emotional healing, where you can come to a mature place in our lives where we don't feel attacked by what somebody says, but we can engage them in conversation. We are open to what they have to say. We are open to different perspectives that may not necessarily align with us, but I really believe that that's a big part of emotional maturity. I've noticed people don't like to engage in heated debates. People don't want to acknowledge that, hey, this situation makes me angry, or hey, this situation makes me sad. Like, let's talk about it. Because I believe if we can do that, then we can get to the other side. It may not be in one conversation, but there is definitely room for mature discussions, and that's what I'm after. I'm after a world and friends where I can disagree and we're fine. Like, everybody's fine. We know that when I disagree, or you disagree with me, or I say something that doesn't quite line up with truth or reality, like, somebody can call me out and say, yo, that was way off base, like, let's talk about it. That's what, for me, emotional healing represents. Like, those wounds, those places that are touchy, that if somebody just poked, that you don't respond from that, but you're able to respond maturely and have good conversations with people. So that was a little bit about, like, why it's important to have emotional healing. So we don't live in isolation, right? We live in this vast community of people, in this big ecosystem called the world. And life throws us so many curveballs. For some of us, life has really been very painful. We haven't received some of the things we really needed as children. We've received adverse treatment, neglect, abuse. There's so many things in our world that have wounded us, and we are wounded people. I will be the first to admit I was a wounded person, and I still am, but the wounds are not wide open and just festering. If you get hurt, cut, like a big cut, you're not just going to be like, oh, I got a big cut, great, life goes on. Like, that cut hurts, firstly. And secondly, if you don't do anything, it's going to ooze and pus and fester, and you could lose your arm, or you could end up with so many more problems because you didn't sort out that problem. And that's what emotional healing is to deal with those places, because they are festering wound. I just want to remove the taboo that is, in my society. I live in South Africa, and it's like taboo for people to say that they are broken. It's taboo for them to say, hey, you hurt me, or I have a hurt experience and I'm living this hurt experience. I remember one point I was going to a psychologist maybe 9 years ago, and my parents were like, I don't understand why you have to go to a psychologist. What is so deep and wounded about you that you must go and pay somebody to discuss your issues? And for me, I was like, I have nowhere else to discuss my issues, and I know my issues are affecting my life in a very negative way. I was really, really sad and didn't know how to operate in life properly because of my sorrow and because of who I was. And so that's why we need emotional healing. We need a space in a room where somebody acknowledges what we have gone through, and then B, they can tell us what is real and what is not. They can help us to find the root of what is causing us to feel a certain way or respond in a certain way. They can give us directions on how to improve. Like, we all want to live an improved life, and it's true because none of us are sitting there in a deadbeat job and are like, oh, this is fabulous. No, we're improving ourselves. We get educations, we continue to learn, we go to seminars, etc., so that we can improve our external life. So why aren't we doing the same for our internal worlds? There is so much hope, there is so much more that we can gain through getting healed. Yeah, if I can just share a little bit, I had depression from the time that I was 16. Well, that was when I first knew it was really bad. Like, I would sit in my room, lights off, 6 o'clock at night, and just sit in the dark. And some days I would cry, and some days I wouldn't. I'd just sit there. I would have insomnia the whole night as well. So I just didn't have peace in my thoughts, peace in myself. Part of that was driven by just a low self-esteem and not really knowing where I fit in this world at the age of 16, and just the perceptions I had of who I was in this world. All of these things that were swirling, and places where I had to be accepted but I wasn't, and I wanted to be accepted but there was a lot of rejection, and so it was just really difficult. And I internalized a lot of that, and with my low self-esteem I really worked very hard to fit in and to be liked by people. And I thought the more hard I work at pleasing people and doing what they like, the more I'd be liked, but none of that helped. I was in that space where depression hit. I was anxious because I didn't know how people were going to accept me or perceive me in a social situation. So I just had all of these, like, this gamut of emotions, and I really, really struggled back then. And I felt worthless. I will never forget, that was like the conversation that I had with my first psychologist, was how I felt worthless and how she would take me to different memories in my life which pinpointed where this worthlessness came from. And that was just so healing and freeing for me. That was like the beginning of freedom. Really received the real freedom that I had until only recently, where I learned about my identity. If I hadn't gone on this journey of like emotional healing, and I would never have come to this point where I can even talk so freely about my struggles. And this is the point, like, we need to be able to talk freely about our struggles. We need to find people that we can talk freely, or just person. I only have one person, okay, two, but one that I can talk very, very freely about my struggles and just share and be like, hey, what is the right perspective on this? Because I know I don't have the right one right now, and I'm panicking and freaking out. I realize as well in those moments of depression and anxiety how much life I stopped living. I isolated myself. I didn't make the most of the places that I lived in. I lived in some great places. You know, there was so much fear driven by just my wounds, like fear of, will I be accepted if I left my house? And so I just I struggled. I've learned to love myself and accept myself for those moments and be gentle with myself. I don't get back those moments that were lost. None of us get back any moments. I don't know what it is that you're missing out on because of what is broken inside of you. We miss out on so much life when we don't find healing. And it's like some of these things are unnecessary. People love us more than we know. And then there are people who don't. People who are just, they don't like us. And that is okay too. Like when you come to a point where you are happy with yourself and content, you will realize that some of these things, there's nothing you can do, but at least you can change the things that you can change. I want to encourage you that if I can go from a 15-year journey of being depressed to having freedom, I don't feel depressed anymore. I don't have anxiety anymore. I'm still learning to tackle things in my life that are hard for me and that relate to people just because of some of the wounds that I have. I'm learning that I'm going through this process. I can tell you there's so much more life to live. For those of you who are watching this and wondering, oh my word, will my life get better? Yes, it will. If you take the steps, not everything is going to change overnight. Forget about that. Like, write that off. But joy is yours. Freedom is yours. Enjoying yourself is yours. Not having to self-medicate or numb yourself from the pain or run away. Like, that is all of yours. It's all of ours. Like, I'm still in the process and I'm right there with you. So I just want to encourage you, like, start taking small steps now. There's things that you can do. Firstly, to acknowledge that, hey, I actually have a problem. I am operating from a place of woundedness. I'm operating from a place of brokenness, and I need healing. That's the first step. And then the next step is allowing yourself to go down that journey of healing. It's not easy, but I guarantee you it is worth it. Your future self will thank you for taking the time to do the work, taking the time to be present to your life. Like, that's the best gift that you can give yourself, more than cars and fame and money, whatever it is. Okay, I know I don't have any of those things, but I know to live content with yourself is one of the greatest things you can give yourself. Don't take the journey lightly though, and this is not a journey you can do by yourself, because that's how you got yourself into this problem in the first place, is you thinking you can handle problems, handle your life, figure things out. You thought you can do it by yourself. You can't. And don't. Just stop fooling yourself. Find people, find a professional that you can trust, or find a support group. There are so many resources out there. Journal, invite people into your world that you can trust. Just do it, because that's how you'll get healing. I can guarantee you, no matter how hard you try, you are not getting healing on yourself, because your perspective is wrong. Not on everything, but on some things. And you need an outside perspective. You need someone to say, yes, this is right. No, this is wrong. You need somebody to tell you, hey, this is actually who you really are. You need that in your life. You need somebody to tell you that you can overcome. You need people on your team for those low days when you're like, ugh, I just can't anymore. And you need somebody who can say, yes, you can. And also give yourself grace. Like, you don't need to be so hard on yourself. Unfortunately, hitting yourself over the head to fix it is not going to fix it. What you need is grace, compassion. And these are all things that you can give yourself. You can be easy on yourself. Like, think of when you talk to your friend who's having a hard time. You don't bash them over the head unless they've done something really stupid, but you don't. You talk to them kindly. You say nice things to them. You encourage them. You say, oh, it's okay that you made this mistake. Everything's going to work out okay. Like, do that to yourself. You're the only person who can do that to yourself. And lastly, you are the only person who can change the trajectory of your life. You, nobody else, not your parents, not your pastor, not your drug dealer, not the liquor store. Only you can do it. So I encourage you to do it. Step by step, small steps. Nobody's asking you to, jump off a 12-foot cliff. We're just asking you to take a small step into the pond and begin the journey of healing. It is a journey. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. But you'll get there. And you will see your life become lighter. You will see yourself be filled with joy in random moments. You will see relationships get better. You'll see that things will get better. And stay tuned, there'll be more conversations on emotional healing, and if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. Cheers!